Cities in Ruin, an Eldritch Horror expansion. Unboxing. Fairly loose plastic on this. Let's read the back. Violent quakes split the world asunder, and nature itself is seemingly intent on destroying the civilizations of humanity. Deep in the heart of Africa, something is stirring. This expansion introduces Shudamel, a destructive new ancient one, heralding this new threat is the advent of disasters and devastation encounters, as well as destructive new mythos cards. 4 weary investigators join the fight, bringing with them new artifacts, assets, spells, and talents to stave off the twilight of humanity. Alright, let's look at it. This has been the expansion for Eldritch Horror that I've been most excited about out of all the ones so far, and I can't imagine one I get even more excited about, but anything's possible. So far, everything is the same as what you'd expect from one of the smaller Eldritch Horror expansions, with a small folded rule book that largely describes rules that are reiterated time and again in the expansions, but are not in the base game. So some of those things that are in the expansions but not in the base game are the prelude cards, and this of course adds new ones, I'm sure, and that's, I don't even have to look at this. I can safely say that one of the prelude cards at least is to use the disaster deck, which makes it so that different disasters continuously happen without using Shudamel. And then otherwise, when you're fighting against Shudamel, I'm sure that you have to use the disaster deck. Unique assets are another thing that are in most of the other expansions, I believe, but are not in the base game. And they're terrific, and they work a little bit like flipping them like spells, but they're effectively assets otherwise. And they have other characteristics as well. Then there are things that are clearly unique to this expansion that I've been waiting for, we've all been waiting for possibly. The disaster cards and the devastation encounters. So those are the only parts I'll read in more length. Most of these, I suspect, are not too different from what's described elsewhere in other expansions, but perhaps some of it's more unique to this expansion. See FAQ, of course, as well. More fluff here. More Fantasy Flight Games fluff. Especially Eldritch Horror and Arkham Horror Files games fluff is always wonderful to me. So some of that stuff might be fairly new. A lot of this isn't. But let's look at disaster cards. Disasters represent natural or unnatural forces that act on the cities of the world or other locations. Some effects cause the investigators to draw and resolve one or more disasters. To do so, the lead investigator draws the top card of the disaster deck. Then he reads the card aloud to all investigators, resolving the card's effects as instructed. The card effect is resolved immediately. After resolving the card's effect in its entirety, the card is discarded to a face-up discard pile by the disaster deck. Devastation encounters. Some effects in this expansion, notably those of disasters, can cause named city spaces to be devastated. When a space is devastated, discard all clues and defeated investigator tokens on that space. Search the Expedition Encounter deck for each card that corresponds to that space, and return them to the game box. When they give instructions like that, really I say, or just whenever you're about to see that a disastered one, a devastated one face, is the next one, just discard and go to the next one. Like, why do you have to go through ahead of time and just so you don't encounter it later when you draw? Just do it as you do it. It would take less time overall, I believe. So you get rid of stuff there, and it's kind of explaining that you basically can't really interact with it. If all 9 named city spaces on the board would be devastated, the investigators lose. That's a key element there that I skipped ahead to. So, devastation marker is a big part of this, and the disaster deck is a big part. Some of the other expansions, in addition to adding new encounters, investigators, more of everything really, including ancient ones. Some of the other expansions occasionally would add in a new mechanism that required, like, a different deck that you would use with a certain bad guy, or, was it the Stygi? The stars align type one, where it's kind of the constellation itself, so to speak, that you're fighting against. There's a prelude card to represent that, but then there's also a corresponding deck, if I'm thinking of the right one, that you can use. This is kind of like that with the Disaster deck, but it just seems like it's much more immediately meaningful. It affects the game board itself rather than just having more kind of optional places to go to, and that's really thematic and interesting and huge. Here's Shoot ML. Not going to look at all the backside, just flip as a sample, but not the Cataclysm from below. That's cool. Now, Ashcan Pete we've seen in lots of Arkham games, and he's great. So he gets bonuses for going on the train action. Makes sense, he's a drifter, he likes to jump onto trains. As you perform an acquire assets action, you're going to gain one item or trinket asset with value less than an observation from your discard pile. So it behooves him to increase his observation. Where does he start? He starts in Scandinavia. That's interesting. Maybe it's not that interesting. I don't know. But it's something. Bob Jenkins, the salesman. His haircut is slightly worse than mine. So here's Bob Jenkins. Lots of influence with 4 influence. Quite good at trading and so forth. So he's another item-y guy, but he's got a rifle. He starts with a clue. Rita Young, the athlete. I've always liked her. She's really good in, if I'm thinking of the same person, in Mentions of Madness as well. Oh my gosh. As an action, she can just gain a talent condition? That's super crazy good. So she spends an action, then uses a health or sanity, and gets a talent. And that's just a permanent thing she has. That's an incredibly good thing to have. Is that a 1 or a 4? Oh, so her influence is pretty low. Her strength is really high, naturally. And so is her will. Her lore is surprisingly good. But I mean, not everything is just characterized by their job or profession or what their background. I mean, there's other things that make Rita unique, so why do we have to prejudge that because she's an athlete? She's not also, well-versed in science and dark, arcane knowledge and so forth and relevant things. She starts in China. Is she a Westerner visiting, or is she Chinese? I shouldn't be concerned with that. I think that's a little bit, I don't know, ethnocentric to be concerned with that. Roland Banks, the Fed. Love it. Roland Banks, FBI. He thought I was dead. So the president's enemies. He seems cool. Set aside a number of service assets from the reserve. What are those? Once per round, you can gain 1 service. Oh, okay, nice. So he's like good at calling in the troops, so to speak. He's super good observation. I think there's not many guys who have, or women who have 4 observation. I think it's the one that the least number of people really specialize in. And it's really one that you need for actually getting the mystery solved naturally. Let's open up this chit board here. Oh, mother fricker. Where's my pen? This is not exciting. Tom Vassell, who is awesome, talks about how boring unboxing videos are. And they are. They're cheap. They're easy. You just literally unbox and just say stuff while you're unboxing. It's obnoxious how easy they are to make and how many views they often get. So with any luck, I will not get many views with this because it doesn't deserve it. But if you're watching, God bless you. You're amazing. But Tom Vassell is otherwise right that in general unboxing videos are not great. At least I'm trying to be entertaining. I'm failing mostly. But At least I'm trying. Most of the people, it's generally like some slow-talking guy who's unboxing it. It's like, with that nasally voice, like, they always say something that you're already seeing. They're not really adding anything interesting to it. They're just like, we got some rules here. Plenty of rules in it. You can see the rules here. The rules. It's like, shut the fuck up, man. Just add something interesting or move through it faster or whatever. Be a video. Don't just... Piece of shit. Anyway, so here's the characters here. We have Eldritch Tokens. With all the expansions, since they all kind of are like, you need more Eldritch Tokens, which are already in the base game. We just have so many now, if you're like me and you're collecting all of them. Here's Shudemel, and, Shudemel there, and so this is someone who's not Shudemel, World Render, who really looks like a giant Shoggoth. So, I'm not sure what their mechanisms are like to actually beat them, but they look ferocious as all hell. Oh, these are cool looking, these Devastation Tokens. More health and sanity. Again, we're so loaded up with those now. Leopard Man. Oh, that's cool. And that's, not even, a greater demon or an ancient one or one of the unique monsters. That's just in the monster bag. The monster cup. Formless spawn. That's cool. Love it. Ancient Chthonian. Maybe it's the Ancient Chthonians that are extra big because... Oh, I said Shoggoth earlier when I looked at that tentacle-y thing. I meant Chthonian. It looks like how I've seen Chthonians, like in Mansions of Madness 1st Edition, and how they've been described some places. But that says Ancient Chthonian in particular. And they just seem like massive, difficult things to kill. So Young Chthonian, I know what that is, but I forget, or I don't know what a Yithian is. Oh, from Yith. Duh. Oh, the Yith guys are so messed up, and they're always doing like weird demented orgy crap. Is that the right thing that I'm thinking of? This is so cool. It's like the eye is a part of a pocket watch, and it's like all bloodshot. That's fantastic. Love it. So, those are great. Let's look at more stands, of course. We're just so... the stuff that they give you a little bit extra for each expansion, but you don't need to double them up as you get more expansions, like the Eldritch Tokens, or Health and Sanity Tokens, or the stands. If you're collecting all expansions, you just have so many. But that's not a bad thing. It's kind of cool to... Sometimes when it comes to board game components for your given game, it doesn't feel crappy to have a surplus. Item, magical weapon. We don't have a lot of new artifacts, I guess, but you don't generally get a whole bunch. It looks like there's 4 new ones here. Significant number of new assets, which is good. That was always an area that to me I was like, we need even more assets. For most of the Arkham games, I always kind of felt that we had maybe more variety of types of spells than we needed. And I just wanted more variety of each individual spell type. So like here, these are both terror, but because you flip them and then do the back side of them, you don't know which terror card you get. So you don't really, you know what basically kind of thing might happen if you played a tarot card before, but you don't, even if you memorized all 4, you don't know which one you got. And that's one of the cool things about, oh, that's a condition, not a spell. But that's one of the cool things about spells in this game, conditions in this game, and how unique assets work. And it's also, that's used in other things like Mansions of Madness and so forth. And I love that mechanism, and it's so fantastic. But I kind of just, and this is true for conditions as well, but I kind of just wish that instead of adding too many more types, they would just add more variety to each individual type. But when they're adding new talents, I think that's a good thing, because one thing I think we needed more of was positive conditions. Like, yes, I want there to be a majority of conditions to be negative in different ways, but I like these new positive conditions when they were first introduced and now as well. And for our character, we need more of them. We got guts, we got practiced, quick study, and some of these conditions only have 2 in total variety, so you just don't know for sure which one you got, but much easier to narrow around. Relentless, rugged, these are all things that I want to be. Quick study, practice, guts. Then we get to ones I don't want to be or be in. Dead. We always have new dead ones. We have tons of variety of dead. And you know what? That's great. Because not only is that painfully realistic, but also because you can take bank loans. Debt comes up a lot. Dark Pact. We always need more of those. They're awesome. Blessed is a great condition. It's a boon. More Cursed. That's important. So we only had a few added variety to existing types. And naturally, it seems like they generally just added variety to types that were in the base game rather than types introduced in other expansions. I wonder how much the variety for each given condition will be even, or if that's necessary for them to be even because some might just come up more because of the cards that make them happen. So now here we have it's a type of glamour spell and Beast Within. That's cool. We have 4 variety of that. That's nice. That's a good variety. I still wish they would just add more to the existing ones, but still. Occult Exaltation. Spectral Razor. So that's what we have for those. Duke, we've seen him now in many Arkham games, and he is wonderful. Everyone loves Duke. He's a wonderful doggo. Once per round, when you may re-roll 1 die when resolving a test. When you perform a rest action, recover 1 additional sanity. Oh, it's so true about dogs. Amory Wendy Smith. Nice. Professor Morgan. So these are unique assets, and it's cool that more of the unique assets are characters. In the couple of expansions, there were just a few, like one. Armitage was a unique asset, but I don't remember a lot of other characters who were unique assets. And it's cool because you don't exactly know what they're going to do. Agency Secrets. Oh, that's cool. Talk about relevant to the time that I'm posting this video as far as FBI, agency secrets, classified. I mean, that's always been interesting. We love government secrets. We love classified stuff, FBI. We love folders that look like this. I love them at least. Oh, and there's multiple, so you don't know which secret you got. That's great. Courier Run. But there's a freaking monster behind you. That's a hell of a run. Alright, so that's a new unique asset. Oh, for the greater good. I love that unique asset. At the end of the Mythos phase, you may spin clues equal to the number of investigators to sacrifice yourself for the good of all mankind. Flip this card. You gotta hand it to Fantasy Flight Games and Eldritch Horror and the designers and Nikki Valens, Corey Konechka, all these folks and more. They're just fantastic to like mix adventure with fantasy with Lovecraftian horror so wonderfully. Light of Reason. Seeking the Masters. A task. So some of these unique assets are tasks. I like that. Wave of Destruction. When you pass a lore test while resolving a spell effect, you may spend 1 health to place 1 health on this card. Then you may flip this card. Okay. Next thing to look at. Larger cards. Alright, here we clearly have what looks to be our I think this is the Devastation Deck. What's it called again? Components. Yeah, 16 Devastation cards. So I think that's not the same as Devastation Token, and it's not the same as the Disaster Deck, which makes the disasters happen. These are specifically, I think, when you are investigating kind of the ruined, messed up cities. And that's so cool because then you get a post-apocalyptic element to this. So let's not spoil the text, since I wish there were more. There's 16 of them. But this depends on, you know, what continent you're in, or what type of city you're in. Yeah. So, oh no, this is just a complex test thing where you do the pass-fail thing. So yeah, so different crazy things can happen to you in post-apocalyptic cities once they're all ruined. Here we've got, how many new prelude cards? 4. Okay, that's nice. Is that the usual amount? I forget. I thought maybe it was 2. The price of prestige. You know what you must do. Apocalypse nigh. Fall of man. None of these are terribly optimistic, and that's what's so wonderful. We love that. So these are special shoot-'em-mail cards, clearly. Are they? Or these... These are the mystery cards for shoot-'em-mail, I think. Then what I love in any expansion for any game, and I just... Like I mentioned, with more variety of existing types, same thing with this. More variety of existing decks. That's really what we want. And I won't spoil these, but here's the Europe cards, the America cards, and the Asia cards. I love it. Fantastic. And more Mythos. Actually, a lot more than I'd even expect. And one wonders if we actually needed that many more, considering the Mythos deck's already one of the ones where you kind of run into repeats the least if you have a bunch of expansions, where you still might with the continent ones. But nah, I'm kind of overly picking it apart and probably incorrect there. It's good to have more of each. And it's good to have ones that might feel more with the flavor of shoot-'em-out. Did I miss it? Was there a second ancient one? No, I think this game only came with one new ancient one. And that's kind of cool because maybe I'm still... Is it just the big expansions that give you 2 new ancient ones, and the little ones always give you 1 new ancient one? That might be how it is, and I'm just misremembering. Alright, here is some really cool stuff. This is the Disaster Deck. And this is actually much larger, I think. Never mind, forgive me. It's the same size, like 16 or 20 cards. And these are only one small spoiler. Destructive Cyclone. Awesome. Takes out a city or something. We don't know what it does, but we know that a lot of cities are going to get jacked up and destroyed, on top of whatever else happens to the world as a whole. And then if you go there, it's all post-apocalyptic and Mad Max mixed with Fallout, mixed with like horror, zombie, mixed with Lovecraft. Awesomeness. Alright, here we have Shoot-'em-Out. Otherworld? I keep reading the backs and how to decipher them. Oh, so these are, this kind of the 2... These are all related to exploring Garn. So that is kind of one of the... Because for every ancient one, you have not just the Mythos deck that's normally there, as well as their ancient one card, but you also have their investigation deck, their clue thing, and that's encountering whenever you try to get a clue for them. And then you actually have the mysteries themselves, of which you have to solve 3, and that's these. But then this is where you have the special cards, and that's where something about the mystery, or something about some of the encounter ones, or even Mythos possibly, I imagine, will make you do an additional thing. Here we have more artifact expedition hunting. Expeditions where you hunt for artifacts, in addition to other things. But expedition stuff. This token here, when it's on the board, you go to wherever this place is. So we have more for Shanghai. Oh, we have city-based ones. Usually they were just kind of more locations that were non-cities, like, you know, out in the wilderness or out on some kind of notable area. But now we're kind of doing expedition in a city, and that's kind of fun. Shanghai, of course. London. Oh, so we don't have all the cities. We don't have, like, Arkham, for instance. Cool. Well, I guess they couldn't, like, for this expansion, probably justify getting 2 new cards for each city. But wish they gave a little more, but that's alright. But I bet they will in other expansions. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new Otherworld cards. And last but not least, something that, for me at least, I disproportionately like to go to, not just because I'm in non-colored regions of the board often, but I often prefer the black kind of miscellaneous cards for, you know, naval or at sea, wilderness, and then the top there, city, because, I don't know, I find them often to be quite beneficial. So it's always good to have more variety there as well. I don't know how much more easy or hard, or both simultaneously, perhaps, paradoxically, this will make the game. But I do know it will add a new, interesting, disaster, apocalyptic, destructive side of Cthulhu that was kind of more bursting and obvious coming out of the what was before a more subtle, insidious sense of something looming and destructive on the horizon, whereas with this kind of vibe, it's the darkness isn't coming, the darkness is here. The destruction isn't on the way, it's now. And I think that's fantastic. I think this is going to be a blast to play. I'm already can review it as being amazing. I haven't even played it, but I will soon, and I guarantee you all love it. Not just because I'm prepared to, but because I feel like I played it. Thanks for watching this silly video. And I can try to be more like, I'm kind of, you know, rambling a lot with this video, but I prefer that more than what I usually hear with the kind of obtuse, knuckle-dragging, like, mouth-breathing folks who usually, like, as you can see here, you got more cards in the card deck for your cards, so that's something that's in this. It's like, oh, dude, guys, shut the fuck up, man. I'm gonna fucking just punch you. Anyway, thanks again for watching.